Welcome back to Ticker News. Our next guest is a speaker and psychologist and says if we don't manage our fear, we will take much longer to come out of our COVID experience, individually for sure, but more importantly as a team, business and society. It's great to have Dr. Amy Silver with us right now. Welcome into Ticker News.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about this. I think this is a really interesting point. It has been a really, a fearful time, if you like. We've gone through so many emotions over the past 12 months. Can I ask, by starting with you, where are we right now, do you think? Because it can linger, right? A lot of these emotions can stay with us, can't they?
Look, we've been in a threat position for a long time. I mean, it's, 18 months or so of us being primed to think about the fear and to think about the difficulties that we may face. And fear is a wonderful, I call it the loudest guest. It's the loudest guest in our head, giving us all these warnings and risk, ways to avoid risk. And so we're really grateful that it's been there for us, really helpful. It's been sending us lots of lovely warnings, but it's actually got to a point where now we need to learn how to manage that fear, because if we don't, we're going to end up being in this really bad position for a long time.
So if we are still feeling nervous at the moment, I'm sure many people are, why do you think that is happening?
It's happening because we have set up some really strong habits. So habits only take about 90 days to really set hold of us. And if you think about the way that we have been living over the last year, we've been very reactive, we've been very avoidant, and that's for good reason. But our behaviors, if we allow our behaviors to carry on being avoidant, we end up putting ourselves in quite a vulnerable position. So what we actually need to do is start to think about ways to stretch into that fear, because if we start letting that fear dominate us rather than just be a commentator on what's going on, if we allow our fear to choose what happens next for us rather than us choosing what we want to do, then we end up just responding to our fear.
So what can that mean for longer term? What can the implications look like if we don't address it?
What it looks like for us is that we may start to put on a coping mask. I think you probably recognize that there's so much burnout at the moment. And I think it's because a lot of us have been putting on our coping mask. We're doing okay. We're going to get through this and push through and up our productivity, up our push and our overstretch. But that's led to this coping mask that actually makes it difficult for us to really be in touch with what is going on for us emotionally. And we may therefore kind of be in a people-pleasing process where we're trying not to let people down, or we are avoiding sharing with people what's really going on. And those masks can start to disattach us from our people, our relationships, and that avoidance of really connecting on a deeper level can damage our trust and our conversations. And it adds a layer of difficulty to our relationships. So it stretches all the way from us just finding it difficult to go to social events or getting out of our pajamas and going into work. It can impact us in all sorts of ways, but most of that now is habitual rather than related to COVID itself.
So just briefly to finish, what can we do to move through this, do you think? What's your advice?
Well, I think we are slowly moving through it. And I think that's the key, is that we need to give ourselves time to reset our habits. So if we haven't been going into the office for a while, then I think it's expected that you will find it nerve-wracking, that you will have to push past the discomfort. And some of that discomfort will be fear, and some of it will just be, the commitments to moving and travel and all the rest of it. I think we need to be kind to ourselves as we progress through this. Don't hold huge expectations of how you're going to move through it. It will be a slow process for us to re-energize ourselves and to move through the avoidance that we've been living with. So I think self-compassion is really important in this journey. And then I think it's about learning how to talk to each other about this and how to normalize the experience that we're all having, so that we can all move into a position of saying, hey, this feels weird to me. Does it feel weird to you? And, what feels weird to you? Even a handshake may feel difficult for some people. And being able to name that for ourselves and for each other will really help us not build on this kind of awkward social avoidance that we've kind of had to do over the last 18 months, but now we need to stretch into not doing that. So be kind and normalize what we're all going through so that we can start to talk to that loudest guest in our brain and calm it down and give it some new strategies to work through.
That's great advice and great to chat with you, Dr. Amy. Where can we learn a little bit more about your work?
My work is all on my website, dramysilver.com, and the book that I've just written is called The Loudest Guest, and that really talks through the 6 stages of managing our fear.
Great name for a book. I like the way that you've described that. Thanks for being on Ticker News today.
Thanks for having me.